Good evening, this is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO, and here at LOTRO Players. And today we have with us Andang,
Hey everybody.
Ethelros,
Hello.
Braxwolf,
Hello, everybody.
and the Servant of the Dark himself, Draculetta.
Still on mute.
A very quiet vampire, yes.
Hey, that always helps to take yourself off of mute, huh?
Yes, it certainly does.
Nonsense.
Now, Andang wishes to start out with a giveaway?
That is right, Pineleaf. If you guys remember last week, we did promise that we will be giving away 2 steeds and titles to those that are in the chat room. So if you're listening to this live, head over to lotroplayers.com/live and join us in the chat so that you can answer these questions and have a chance of winning. And our first question for a Cremello steed. What is your favorite moment, LOTRO moment, and why? And please include the word giveaway in the chat before your answers so I can actually know what you're talking about and easily see it. And let's go ahead and go around the horn here. Let's see here. Drac, what's your favorite LOTRO moment?
Oh, why did you have to start with me?
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
I've been trying to think of an answer for this, and I can't think of anything. I mean, there's been so many great things that's happened in the game. Yeah, I can't think of one right off the top of my head.
All right, well, Elros?
Well, in honor of Fellowship of the Creep Scenting, I would have to give mine as a PvP example. It was many, many months back now, I think during Rise of Rohan, where we had a full 24-man spider raid. And obviously 24 plus another 24 spider pets. I think we all burrowed outside the Freep main camp of Glanrhaeg. There was about 12 Freeps ran over up where we were all burrowed. We all came up and swarmed over them. Apparently, according to the Freeps on the forums, they actually were scared by that.
I can
That many
imagine.
spiders coming up. It was amazing doing that. I think that's the only thing I can think of that's better than a war pack.
All right. Brax?
I think my favorite moment was the first time that I actually grouped up with the kinship that I'm on now, on Winfola. I was so scared that I was going to screw stuff up, and because I had never really done much grouping other than a couple people that I knew in real life. So we already, that was kind of we already knew we were terrible. So when I actually got in a group, there was about 5 or 6 from the kin that I'm on now, and they were going through doing some quests and just wiping out mobs in Moria, and I was a little bit underleveled. I think the mobs were orange for me, and I had never grouped before, and sure enough, I actually tab targeted the wrong mob at one point and pulled a whole group of guys in that we weren't supposed to be fighting, and at that moment, the other folks turned around and took care of all the guys, and I was just so flustered, and I put in the kin chat and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was my bad. It was a tab target." And I think Rolf was the one who all he said was, "No worries," and that was the end of it. And it was like, hey, this is what this game is about then. So it was just a real friendly group, and it was a real fun time just seeing all those guys get mowed down.
Awesome. That's cool.
And I just thought of one.
All right.
The first time back during Volume 1 when you used to have to fight Mordoth, you know how they changed that fight and you used to have a full fellowship go in there and fight him? The first time I was in a pickup group and we took him out.
Oh, the Mordrith fight. Yeah, I remember.
Yep. It's like changed now, but it used to be a pretty epic fight for that level, actually.
Hmm.
All right. Pineleaf?
This one will be from a few years back. On New Year's Day, it was my 100th skirmish on my main Pineleaf. and we all got together, and I decided that my 1,000 skirmish was going to be a full raid Tuckborough. So just being able to get 12 people in order to do a Tuckborough raid on New Year's Day was probably a bit of an achievement itself. I don't think a guy was quite ready to lead a raid at that point, but fortunately someone there was and was able to take over and actually lead the raid, because I don't think I was quite comfortable yet with leading a raid, but it was very nice being able to finish off number 1,000 with a raid as opposed to just a solo skirmish. And I think that could have been my first raid that I've ever done as a skirmish.
Okay. Awesome. All right, and before I give mine, Flossom from the chat says, first successful Dracok raid after 6 attempts where he didn't bug out. Very true. And Blackjack says, my favorite LOTRO moment is the first time I met Tom Bombadil, which is also known as, that's what's written on the page, but whatever his name is. I'm not familiar with LOTRO lore, so I had no idea who he was. So my thought was, Ned Flanders and the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz had a kid.
No.
You Mary do!
I think we have a winner.
Best
Not in-
comment ever.
Not entirely inaccurate.
Does it have to be accurate to be funny?
Nope.
No. Alright, so my favorite moment is probably what got me started writing for CSTM. And basically, I'd been doing PvP for a few days, trying it out, not sure if I was definitely sure I didn't like it at that point. I just wasn't in a good group, I had no idea what was going on, I had nobody there to explain it to me. And then this one guy, I can't remember his name, I've been trying to for years, but he basically said, do you want to join this group? I'll help you around. And I automatically get into this 24-man raid. It's just him, me, and 22 wargs. Who are all stealthed. And so we were the bait, and all the wargs would come out of nowhere and attack the freaks. It was awesome. Definitely one of my favorite moments, and that's what inspired me to get started with writing for PvP stuff on CSTM, because I just, that is such a great moment that really you can't get anywhere else in LOTRO, and eventually PvP can get old, but that first time when that happened, that was the coolest thing that's probably happened to me in all of LOTRO, so that's my moment. Alright, Pineleaf, if you want to take us on to the first section.
Very well. We'll now go into the game news. The servers were taken down on January 23rd for a game update. So, of course, we also have our update 12.2 release notes that we posted at our site, going over all the changes that there were, which was mainly bug fixes, rebalancing, and things like that. Anyone have any special things that they liked out of the update?
I'll just mention.
LMs are good now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
What are good
Well.
now?
LMs are less overpowered, but they still are.
Yeah.
I was going to mention the one thing I noticed about the captain when I got back in, and I haven't looked at all the trait lines, but on the red trait line, they made it possible to have the standard of war be a ground-targeted standard, as opposed to, I think before, when you laid it down, it placed it right on top of whatever mob you had targeted. So that was the one thing I noticed for the captain. And there may be some more in the other trait lines.
Yes. They
Yeah.
originally were planning that on 12.1, but it was always, I think it was automatically always ground targeted when they had it in 12.1, and I think people didn't like it that way because some people didn't want it to be ground targeted. So therefore, they held it to 12.2 so that they could make it a cleaner interface to it and allow people to choose whether they wanted it or not. All right. Anybody else have any interesting notes that they wish to share?
Is it harder now? I haven't noticed.
I get the feeling that it's a bit harder. I'm not sure whether it's because I overestimated how easy it would become, but it does feel a little trickier, especially when there's large groups of mobs, because they said they sped up the attack speed. So obviously, if you've got a lot of mobs, they'll all be hitting a lot faster. I think situations like that is going to be more difficult.
It's hard for me to tell right now because I've been playing mainly on a new burglar that I've been making, so it's been harder to do a relative comparison between a class I haven't been playing for a while versus a class that I have been playing before the update.
Also, they mentioned fixing combat animations for weapons. That's partially addressed, but they're still not completely. My captain will be holding weapons even when he shouldn't be. Yeah, it still happens every so often.
Yeah, I think they still have a couple of things that need to be addressed. Because I still notice that when my hunter starts combat, she fires an arrow, then draws her bow.
Yeah, the animations are still kind of messed up.
All right.
Definitely.
Anything else? Then let's go into 20 questions. In that Turbine is soliciting 20 questions. Well, people are to... They started a thread. You could post your questions that you have in there, and Turbine will answer 20 questions on... Well, the deadline is January 28th, but it'll probably take them a while to compile it, put them together, answer the questions. And I think the entire idea is that this is the beginning of their discussions for what's coming in Update 13. I think that's the entire reason why it came out when it did, right after the update.
Mm-hmm.
So get your questions out there.
Yep. And just remember that if you post something that isn't a real question or is a really, really complicated question that no one's going to understand, then it's unlikely to be selected as one that's going to be answered.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, and we kind of came to the conclusion that the best way to get your question answered is to word it in such a way that Turbine is... It's a question that Turbine wants to answer. So something that would be in their best interest to provide an answer to, they'll probably select.
Well, there is that. And of course, we have our usual store sales, and our free sample this week is a plus 100% mark acquisition marker, which is a free sample for MMS 75. So I guess that is Mark Skirmish 75? I don't know. I know, sometimes I try to apply logic to their codes.
Every time.
Yes. Every time. Okay, every time I try to put logic into their codes, and sometimes it has logic and sometimes questionable. We also have 25% off the following items: legendary slot unlocks, legendary tier upgrades, 5,000 enhanced reputation supply, and relics and relic packs. So therefore, the bulk of this has to do with legendary items, which I'm sure really excites certain people on this show.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to echo what Drax says in the article. LIs suck, so...
I get the impression that some people don't like the legendary item system. But I'm not going to say that specifically. Let's go into our site news. Now, first off, let's see. We had a Cremello steed giveaway earlier. So what about a Perlino steed? Do you think you got one of those?
I think I do, Pineleaf, and once again, a big thanks to Ethelros for providing some of the codes from his I can't think of what it's called.
Extra Life.
Extra Life, yes. I could only think of Child's Play. Yeah, for his Sapiens' Extra Life, he gave out codes for that, and so Tharos decided to give those away. And then a big thanks to Sapiens for giving us more title codes and several things like that. So anyway, for Perlino Steed, what is your favorite zone in LOTRO, and why? And once again, please put giveaway in the chat before your answer so I can easily see it. And I would like to, before we get going, congratulate Blackjack on winning that. I did send him an email with his code, so he should now have a steed. And there's no limit on winning twice, mainly because of the size of our chat room. So anyone can win multiple times. It just depends on your answer or the luck of the draw if there's nothing that stands out. So let's go ahead and go around. What's your favorite zone and why? And let's start with not Pineleaf because he never knows what the answer is. So let's start with not Drac because he didn't know last time either. So let's start with Athelros.
Oh, it's a fallback guy. Well, fortunately, this is a very easy one for me to answer. West Rohan, it just is.
Mm.
A few months ago, I would have said Evandim because it is probably the most polished and one of the prettiest zones they've made, especially mainly since the revamp. But now West Rohan, it beats everything else hands down.
Okay, Brax.
I think I'm going to say East Rohan. I think I like the quest flow a little bit better in that zone than I do the new area. Evandim is pretty close, but I guess I don't like how you have to swim to some of the islands still. I would rather have a better way to get there. But yeah, I think East Rohan, you get your mounted combat started there in the warbands, and the quest flows are good, and the landscape is beautiful. I think that's my favorite zone.
All right, awesome. Pineleaf.
You'll never guess this one. Mirkwood.
Skirmishes, right?
Of course!
Well, assuming that it didn't come with skirmishes, what's your favorite zone?
Oh, assuming
Skirmishes
it
factor.
didn't come with skirmishes. Oh,
And
now you got to spoil everything.
I'll go ahead and go on to Drax so you can think about that.
I am going to say it's a toss-up between Evendim and West Rohan.
Okay. Why?
Evendim, I like the look of it. I don't know, it's just an amazing place to be, I think. And Rohan, I like the look, and I kind of like the quest flow, and I like the whole Horse Lord storyline.
All right, and Pineleaf.
The Shire.
Ah.
That's the
sense.
easy way out.
Yes.
He has a lot of hobbits. That makes
I
sense.
have a lot of hobbits. My house is always in the Shire.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
And that's where I always go to do my cooking and stuff like that.
Awesome. For me, it's probably Helm's Deep. Go figure. I said many times on this podcast, let alone other places, that I could live permanently in Helm's Deep and be perfectly happy if they never create any more parts of LOTRO. I could just stay there.
Does that include the zone as a whole, though? Because that's only a small piece of it.
Just the Helm's Deep area, yeah. I'm serious. I just really am amazed by how they created such a big structure so well. It was a really good job, and way better than the last big structure that we saw, which was in Mirkwood at Dol Guldur. Because that thing is kind of weird. With those really tall staircases, and it looks good from a distance, but then when you get up close you realize this really couldn't be that useful as a fortress. So
Especially when your soldiers get lost in it.
right. Alright, let's go to the chat and see what we have here. Let's see here. Alex says the North Downs because he loves to see rangers and he loves to see giants and kill a lot of orcs at Dol Dinian. Alright. And Flossin says Eregion. And he already has the steed. He just wanted to throw Pineleaf off. Well, okay then. And then Alex after that says, haha, Pineleaf after that. So Pineleaf, I think the chat room's turning against you.
Oh no! Run away!
All right.
Yeah.
Well, because there were only 2 entries into this, I think it has to go to Alex. So, Alex, send me an email at lotroplayers.mymiddleearth@gmail.com.
Well, Blackjack did say angry mail.
Oh, yes, that's true. That is a good one. But I am going to give it to Alex. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. And let's go ahead and continue on, Pineleaf.
Very well. We have some Lotro video highlights concerning Isengard. I think, Anding, you had something to do with that.
I did, and the reason that I picked this and not say another song or something, which I have all queued up, believe me, but the reason I didn't pick another song and pick this is because we're on the verge of seeing Flooded Isengard, how it's going to be, and so I thought it'd be neat to show the dev diary from way back before Rise of Isengard came out, and show what Flooded Isengard looked like then. So I actually have the video set to start right when they start talking about Flooded Isengard, and I think that it's really interesting, even though they gave only a few glimpses, it's interesting that they had something built at that time, way back then, all those years ago.
And let's see what it actually looks like when they...
Well, that is true, but still, the fact that they had something done, and it never appeared, because I don't think there's any part of the story that shows like a preview to Flooded Isengard, so it's just interesting to think about their development cycle and why they had that created already.
Yeah, it was neat to see Aaron Campbell on there again too.
Yeah.
Very
And
well.
I'm going to give a teaser for next week just because it's kind of related in a way where the MMO Report, which was a G4 TV series on the internet, they did a 30-minute talk through with various people at Turbine and got behind the scenes in their office. So that's next week on LOTRO Video Highlights, so be on the lookout for that.
All right. And this week we had the usual unexpected vidcast where they talked about the earlier parts of Winterstock and continued with the story of getting to Lothlorien, where he's still following the footsteps of Frodo, but he won't be able to go very far with Frodo's quest line when he reaches the Brownlands and the Dead Swamps. So I don't know how he's planning to do that.
Not yet.
He hasn't thought that far. Or maybe he has. Who knows?
Well, he's in Lothlorien right now, and he's doing
true.
it by the dates that he's trying to hit them on the days that Frodo hit them.
Maybe Turbine will give him special access to the map just so he can continue on his series.
Unless, of course, the Dead Swamps is really... No, there has to be something related to Isengard Flooded for the next revamp. For the next update.
He could easily pick somewhere in the existing game and probably try to simulate it and make it look like that, I think.
I guess
Wait
he
until
could try
next year.
that.
Or wait until next year. That's also possible.
Well, yes, I guess you have that possibility. He might get caught by his wife or something like that. All right, Lily Kate's Chatter. And too bad we don't have Lily Kate to talk about this. Anyone wish to make any comments about this? Because apparently she didn't have her small adventures yet this week.
Yeah, she was hoping to have a small adventures posted, but she had some technical issues. That must be going around. There must be just a technical issue thing happening to everybody.
I think there is. Between Lotro Academy, Lotro Players Adventures, and all that stuff.
So she posted, it's kind of a blog about what she's been up to with Lillicate, the character Lillicate, over the last couple weeks, I think, and what she's been doing, and kind of like something you'd find on a personal gaming blog site, but she just kind of, now that she's back, I think she's letting everybody know what she's been up to and catching everybody up.
Awesome.
All right, so we can see what she's been up to.
And I love the picture she put on there where she's in Lalia's market, and the horse looks like it's staring down at her. That's like my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite screenshot she's ever done, I think.
Yes. Ladies, brace yourself. Yes. All right, and Skirmish Archer Lizzie. Oh, yes, questing with her Skirmish Archer. Now we have our breaking Lotro Players news. Wait a
Andy's
minute.
got to take this one.
Oh, that's a minor detail. Okay.
Who's going to announce the breaking news?
I think the writer of it should.
Draculetta, you mean?
I guess so. Last week, after the show,
Like, not even like a few seconds. Like, it was immediately after the show, pretty much.
a couple of us were still in the hangout chatting, and all of a sudden Pineleaf goes, "Oh, okay, that'll work. Okay, it's done." and Ding and I like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I just signed up for Twitter."
Just so nonchalantly. Even though this
Matter
has
of
been-
factly, I have a Twitter now.
And so this is such big news that we had to get the story out immediately so that we could be the breaking people on this story, because who knows who could have reported it otherwise outside of the LOTRO Players News Network. So we had to make sure that we
BBC.
were on the spot, and it really is that big, you know, so we had to get on there and get it done. I'm surprised, though, that no big networks picked up the story yet, but they will in time, because this is huge news that Pineleaf Needles already has 50 Twitter followers, and everyone should go follow him at Pineleaf Needles.
Pineleaf, tell me though, have you actually logged on since you created the account until today?
I've been on there a couple of times in order to check things out, though the only actual tweets that I've sent are those that were related to my YouTube site.
Okay, because you seemed pretty surprised to have 50 followers tonight when you logged
Well,
in.
I did. I think the last time I checked, there were a lot fewer than 50.
It's going viral.
Yeah, it's going viral. Good grief. All right, Brax, what's your pick of the week?
So we have this pick of the week is a little bit different than some of the others because this is a site that is in development, and it is being done by Flossin, who is also a contributor to the site occasionally, and he's in the chat room. Hey, Flossin. He is doing a crafting site called LOTRO Crafting Corner, and what he's doing is taking screenshots of all of the recipes, guild recipes in the game, and maybe other recipes, but I know for sure guild recipes, and he's putting them out there so that if you're curious as to what the recipes are for all of these guild crafted recipes, you can go to this site, click on the tier that you're interested in for the profession you're interested in, and there'll be a screenshot there of what the recipe is. And I'm mentioning this because I know he's soliciting some help from some people, and I'm sure he would be more than happy to accept additional contributions to the site because it takes a lot of time to take all these screenshots of these recipes and format them and get them put in there. So let's see if I can find the URL here. It's just lotrocraftingcorner.com. And
Awesome.
I think you can get a hold of Flossin through the My Middle Earth site.
All right. Well, my question is, what circlet is the crafting hobbit wearing in the crafting corner? I'm trying to
Nobody
figure
knows
out
the answer, finally.
what.
If
No one
you
knows
don't
the
know,
answer.
we don't know.
All right, because that's an unusual circlet that she's wearing. And I'm not familiar with it. So.
And Flossin's in the chat room. He said they're hoping to have all the recipes in there, so not just the gilded ones.
All right.
Awesome.
Very well. Does Flossin know which circlet that is?
Well, he's on like a 30-second delay, so it's going to be a while till he answers.
Being
Let's just sit
mysterious.
here.
Yep.
Stretch, Pineleaf, stretch.
Stretch. Let's go into donations while we wait for Flossin. Donations. A big thanks to Stuart for his $10 or more donation to LOTRO Players. If you would like to help LOTRO Players and help to support their podcast, please go to the donation page where you can help support the podcast of LOTRO Players and also help support the site. We have $5 and $10 mentions. For $5, you could get a mention on the podcast of your choice. For $10, you get a mention on all of our active podcasts. And now we have something about a sociable title.
That's right, Pineleaf, we are giving away more sociable titles as we come towards the close of our show. So we have a question for everyone to answer as I'm continuing to stall here, where basically if you answer this question and the anyone that wants one of these titles that's in the chat will get one because we have plenty from Sapiens. Big thanks to him again for giving us them. And let's go ahead and go into the questions. So the question for the sociable title, and you can answer this somewhat close after it, but I'll be kind of lenient on this one because we have so many codes. But what is your favorite aspect of LOTRO and why? So your favorite part of it. So this could be skirmishes. Oh, I just gave Pineleaf's answer away. Or it could be, epic battles, which is not Drax's answer. So really anything, any aspect of LOTRO that you like. So let's go ahead and start with Pineleaf.
I thought you already gave my answer. Yes.
I did, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to finally be able to answer on point, but that didn't happen. So.
Well, of course it's skirmishes.
All right, awesome. Drac, what's your favorite?
I would have to say I think it is the community. This is the most amazing community in any game I have ever played.
Awesome. Thoros?
Yeah, I think Drac is kind of right on that. I think the main three top aspects of LOTRO being the world, the story, and the community. For me personally, though, I'd have to pick the world as the top, just because how well they've built it. It feels like Middle-earth, and even if they removed everything else, all the players, all the quests, everything, I would still come, log in and all that stuff just to wander around their interpretation of Middle-earth.
All right. And Brax?
Yeah, I agree with Drac 100%. I think the community is the thing that I enjoy the most, and I'm not even going to try and make up another answer to be different because there's just nothing that's really even close for me.
Yeah, the community is absolutely amazing. That being said, at some points on certain servers, the community wasn't necessarily there for me, but the story kept me going through it. So the community is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I think that because of that and some of my personal experiences, that causes me to pick the story because they're both so amazing, but man, the story is really good, especially with Helm's Deep. My goodness, they did a great job with that. Anyway, back to you, Pineleaf.
Back to me, then let's go into our feedback. We did not have any reviews this week, but we do have 2 featured comments. The first is Lily Kate commenting on LOTRO Players News episode 30, and let's have Draculetta read that one.
Lily Kate says, great show as always, and she loves the crowbarring of the grumpy old man. Pineleaf is an exit. Well, I was waiting for Andig to throw it in, but I guess he didn't take the cue.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm messaging people.
Oh, that's all right. Pineleaf is an excellent host, and she says her favorite story character has to be Tom Bombadil, whose skippity-doos she just loves. Also, Radagast, as I adore that he saves the animals and does not have any bird poo on his face, whiskers are hair. My favorite LOTRO players moment must be the time Lizzie was telling you all what she really thought about poor Pineleaf, and he got the brunt of that too. But she did compliment his skirmishing ability, smiley face. I don't think we got it all live, but it made me laugh so much. And here's to the next 30 shows and more.
I wish I had more of that live because, man, that was so funny. When she started just... She's like, Andang's great at PvP, but Pineleaf isn't so good. He dies a lot on his spider. It was so funny.
Well, that's very well. Our next letter...
I would just move on to Pineleaf.
Yes. Our next comment is from Brewster of Brandywine, who also left us a comment on episode 30. Etheros, could you please read that one?
I take that as a no.
I guess not. Very well. I guess we will have to have Brax read it.
I love this letter because it's so dramatic.
Yes.
It really is.
This is a follow-up from Brewster, who left us a review on iTunes before the last show, and when we read it back, somehow or other, my name got left out of the response. So that's just setting the stage here. And he actually kind of sets the mood here at the beginning. It's Monday night after a long day at work, and I'm home relaxing, and I remember LOTRO Players News should be up on the website. So I begin listening to the podcast. I've done this before, but tonight it's special. It's special because the other day I left a review on iTunes, and I hope to hear a mention in the feedback section of the show at 5445. Draculetta did the reading of my review, and I felt so proud to be part of the show. But then it went so terribly wrong. Imagine my shock to hear I had left out Braxwolf when I wrote the review. No, that's not possible. It could not be. All the while, the podcast is going on, and I hear the group laughing at my goof. Oh, the shame I'm feeling. This is hilarious. Braxwolf of the Brax clan, how could I have done such a thing? Am I getting too old? Not fit for proper feedbacking on the interwebs? No, this can't be. Time to investigate. I started thinking about the feedback, and that day I did just listen to a 3+ hour epic podcast, and I was mining ore and wood in the West Rohan areas the whole time of the podcast. I remembered being careful to include Mystery, even though she did not make that specific podcast. So I thought, let's double-check that iTunes review. To my surprise and glee, there it was, Braxwolf, in flashing letters. No. I made that part up. Somehow, among the list of names in my review, Braxwolf's name was deleted in the translation to podcast notes. So now the question exists, who deleted Braxwolf? Thanks for the podcasting and fun. Keep it up. Brewster of Brandywine. Thanks, Brewster. I wasn't offended anyway, even if you had forgotten. There's so many people on this podcast that we rotate through, it would be impossible to name them all. So.
Yeah, I forget people all the time, as is evidence on the show.
Very well. And now let's go into emails, and this email is from Ali. Greetings, LOTRO players. I am Ali from Italy. While I am taking a month and a half break from LOTRO due to my exams, I do listen to you guys, which keeps me up to date with everything LOTRO. I really enjoyed this week's episode, and it was super fun. Also, last week I found out that you can listen to the podcast on YouTube/Google Plus before it even comes on iTunes. But I do not recommend it. Nothing wrong with your beautiful normal voices, but I do prefer listening to 2x versions of you all. 2x versions?
Let me say this real quick. Okay, so he sent me a message like 2 weeks ago saying that he did listen on this 2x version. So I actually listened through the podcast at double speed. That's what the 2x means finally. And it was just hilarious. It's a totally different show. It really is. And I recommend everyone does it at least once to all your favorite podcasts. I started going through all my podcasts, and it's so awesome.
LOTRO
so
Players,
funny.
the Chipmunks version.
Well, if you have the right device, which I think he says somewhere, then it doesn't necessarily have to raise it up, but I think mine did, and it's so funny.
Yeah, I think if I've done that before, it doesn't make you sound like a chipmunk. It just kind of speeds the whole thing up.
It's just funny
really
because
interesting,
sometimes there'll be like a long pause and it'll just be normal speed, or there will be like no pause and you'll just be sounding like you're this really intelligent person, or sometimes it'll be like demeaning. It just changes the whole dynamic of the show. It's pretty funny.
You're right.
Continuing, Pineleaf.
All right, very well. Yes. I also laughed out loud when Pineleaf said that his favorite moment is surviving the poetry. And since Andang cannot wait to have more poems, I I do not like to keep him waiting. I had been working on an idea for a poem. It's one of the more difficult styles of poem and took a lot of work. Being a big fan of Tolkien poetry, this poem is inspired by the Song of Eärendil by Bilbo. Reading it to the right way will be a challenge for whoever attempts it. But if you guys get it right, wherever I am listening to it, I will stand up and bow in your direction. So here it is. Enjoy. It's dedicated to all Tolkien fans, all casual players, and to LOTRO players. Boy, that is quite a...
There's
Just don't look
instructions.
ahead and
Yes, that is very well. Let's see.
There's reading instructions.
Yes,
are.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's
he wants to make sure you get it right, Pineleaf.
It's not really a good sign when a poem has instructions.
yes, it's always. I'm wondering. Okay, why is it right in the words?
We'll give Pineleaf a few moments. So, guys, what's going on?
Oh, doing a podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, figured as much.
Okay, now I understand what he's saying. Okay.
All right, good.
Very well. So, sort of a internal rhymes thing that I associate more with Welsh poetry than with English poetry, but okay. I was bored of playing and slaying. The deeds became boring, so I started exploring. In Middle-earth, the beautiful earth, and all its mystery, the history, I enjoy the ales and tales, and the role play and lore play. I break from the questing, just resting. In hall of fire, by the fire, will desire and a passion, no more travel ration. So everyone come, welcome. Please do come with Estelali or Jinxali. With all these merry elves, the singing elves, the dancing elves, the Tolkien's elves. And Bilbo, or was it Bingo? I don't remember, but you are a member of this community of players, the LOTRO players, who got the news and share their views. That's what we're doing and pursuing. So listen to them conveying when you are bored of playing.
I think that's the first poem that's about us.
I think so.
Oh boy. You can contact us at lotroplayers.mymiddleearth@gmail.com, or you could follow us on Twitter, LOTROPlayers at LOTROPlayers, Andang at PVMP_Andang, Braxwolf at Braxwolf, Draculetta at Draculetta_72, Ethelrose at Ethelrose, Mystery at MysteryXOX, and Pineleaf at Pineleaf Needles.
Whoa!
Never thought I'd live to see the day.
I never thought I'd live to see the day. I mean, sure, I could have created a fake one or something, but I never thought Pineleaf would actually create one.
We're going to have to find something else fun to do at the end of the show.
We
Yeah.
are. Now we should have a virtual beach ball or something, because...
Or a turkey.
Do the
Did
wave.
you mention all of our giveaway winners today?
There were several more. Alex won the Steed, so congratulations to him. And then Flossin and Tomeric both won titles. So big thanks to you guys for showing up in the chat. And a reminder that if you want to win sociable titles in the weeks to come, we won't give necessarily specifics, but there will be more giveaways of titles coming up. So be on the lookout and join us live in the chat. That's the only real way to be sure.
Right. LOTRO Players News goes live every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. server time. That is United States Eastern Time. You can join us by going to lotroplayers.com/live. And be sure to join us in the chat. That is all for tonight. And until next time, this is Pineleaf Needles. And remember to skirmish responsibly.
Thank you for the